Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's card I'm going to use, it's a bit of an old stamp set from Holtz, and these are the mini bird crazy and things, as well as the mini cats and dogs. And I'm just going to use a water brush, aqua brush, I don't know what they're called, but basically there's some water in the barrel of the brush. Just makes watercoloring that much easier if that's how you want to do this. You can use a paintbrush and water, of course, makes it easy. And the colors, the distress colors I'm using today are picked raspberry, candied apple, carved pumpkin, squeezed lemonade, twisted citron, mermaid lagoon, wilted violet, and vintage photo. Lots of colors, but I wanted a rainbow of color for all of this. So the animals, I'm obviously going to use some more muted tones. I think I have hickory smoke in here as well, thinking about it. But for the presents I wanted to use, hickory smoke. The presents I wanted to make into like a rainbow of colours. And I'm not doing any real shading or anything because the images lend themselves to that already. The way that they've been drawn, they've got all the shading and all those sort of areas that if you struggle with that, this is really cool because it's done for you. You don't have to think about it. You can just do straight colouring. For the little sausage dog, my mum and dad have two of them, and I kind of wanted to get some sort of resemblance of them with because they're black and brown, aren't they? So I used the vintage photo first, and then I used the hickory smoke just straight over the top. And that sort of gave that sort of darker layer, but it's not, I mean, it is what it is. I didn't try and get it completely black because then you would also lose the lines, so don't think about that when you're colouring things in. So what I've done here is I've smushed them off. I know you can't see it, but I've smushed them off to the side, all those different colours, and I'm just going to colour each of the presents in those different colours. So this is picked raspberry, this is the candied apple, and I went back and forth adding a bit more colour to them to try and deepen the colours because they are very bright colours. And then here's where I accidentally went over one of the ribbons that comes down the side of the present. So in the end I just decided, you know what, this is just going to have bows on it, no ribbon down the side. So I just kind of went with it because you can if the ink's still wet, you can kind of use some clean water over that area and then take a paper towel to sort of mop that up, but it will always still have a bit of colour on it, so I just went, oh, it's fine. so just grabbing some more colours here. Excuse me. And I also go back over the hats because the dots on the hats don't quite look like they're standing out enough for me, so I'll take a bit of wilted violet, I believe, and just add that to the dots on there, and then some picked raspberry, I think, for the top bits, but don't get too hung up on that. These last two presents, because there's 9 as opposed to 7, I just made colours up. So on to the right of me where I've got all those inks smushed, I just kind of made a couple of colours. I just blended a couple and went with it. So that's what those two colours are. And then I did the same thing again for the bows because I didn't have a colour that I was going to be happy with for the bows, so I just made one up, and I didn't want any of the colours of the bows to be the same as the presents themselves or any of the presents, because otherwise it'll just be all the same colour. So I wanted there to be a contrast there, so there you go. Easy. So now I'm just going over the dots just to ink those in, and I've super sped this up. I don't colour this quickly. It takes me forever to colour. So yeah, this is super fast. And then just adding a couple of things like his little collar and her beak. And then I had also stamped the some sentiments from a couple of stamp sets from My Pink Stamper. The Everyday Occasions and Simply Sweet Occasions, I believe, are the ones I used just to get all the birthday sayings that I thought made sense for birthday cards. So these 3 are going to be birthday cards, and I'm just using some vintage photo to go around the edge of everything, because I don't think you can ever have enough vintage photo on everything. So even the dark one, I just sort of, you know, I know it's there. And these 3 panels, these coloured panels or embossed panels, are actually from a previous video that I did, and if I forget to link it, please tell me so that I can link it for you guys. I did a couple of them. I did one where I did like a faux letterpress using stencils, which is my favourite, and some dye inks, and a baby wipe. And then I also did the same thing but with embossing folders. So these are the panels that I think in one of those videos, or both those videos, I'd said I would make something out of them. So this is where we are with them. So I've got 3 of them there. And then these cards, I believe these are a 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. So A4 cardstock is 8 1/4 wide. So I cut that at 4 1/8 and then folded it at 4 1/8. You can easily do this as a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 card. I just thought that made the most sense to get the most out of my A4 cardstock. And so there's going to be a tiny border when I put the panels on. So the panels are 4 inches by 4 inches. So on a 4 1/4 inch card it would work fine too, but these are going to just have a tiny border instead, so like 1/8 of an inch rather than 1/4 of an inch. So I decided to drag some vellum out. Vellum is one of those things that I never really use. It can be tricky to put down because you'll end up seeing the adhesive, because obviously it's fairly transparent, or semi-transparent, or whatever the word is. So in here I'm going to show you that where I place these guys on, and all these little presents and things, and the sentiment onto the vellum, that's going to then go, that will be where, on the back of that is where I'll put the adhesive, so that you won't see the adhesive on the card. It'll make more sense in a minute. So these, I just used a stitched square die that I have. I think it came from the Works many years ago. But you could easily just cut a square panel. And so I'm just putting some foam dots on this little guy and just popping them on there. And then I decided to, I used some wet adhesive, which you'll see in a minute for the presents. I shouldn't have bothered using wet adhesive on the vellum. It seemed to, like, I guess because it was wet and vellum obviously reacted the way it did, it seemed to want to curl the vellum up. So a dry adhesive, just my experience, a dry adhesive on vellum is much better. But obviously you need to be aware of where you're putting the adhesive so that you don't see that through what you're trying to use the vellum for. So I've got his little hat on there, and I had to cut his little hair curl off, which is a shame. I tried to get it so that I could curl it round, like his head onto the hat, so it was kind of sticking out the hat. Didn't work, so I just cut it off. So I think he still looks cute. So this is where I'm just sticking a couple of the presents, and I'm just going in rainbow order. So I've got the bird here, and he's got the picked raspberry, candied apple, and pumpkin pie. No, carved pumpkin. Pumpkin pie, that's a different stamp company altogether. So he's got those first 3. And this is where, you can't really see it in the video, I don't think, but it's already starting to curl up. And it was driving me bats. So I will, we'll try not to do that again. So I'm just going to stick the little sentiment on there, and this is where I'm trying to flatten that out a bit. So onto the cat, and the dies that I used for this are actually, I do actually have the dies for these. Normally I use my scan and cut for everything. I do actually have the dies that coordinate with this, and they are brilliant. They cut right on the line. You have to obviously line them up as best you can, but they're not too difficult to line up. And even in between, like the legs and things like that, it will cut those sections out, which is just so clever. I think there's probably a way I can do that on my scanner cut, but I really don't know how to do that. So at the moment, this worked. I thought I have the dies, I'll just sit there and cut them out. Normally I would have just run it through my scanner cut. So again, got the little hat on. Here's where I learned from the first one, and I'm going to just use some dry adhesive and put that on there. Again, I'm doing the same thing, so it's kind of like what's the word, you know, like you're mass producing. It's 3 cards, it's not mass producing, but you know what I mean. So I'm just getting all the different things done at the same time. So all the card bases are inked at the same time, all the layers are inked at the same time. When I was prepping it, I obviously cut all the card bases at the same time, cut all the little panels that'll go on there, got them ready, you know, did all my colouring at the same time, that sort of thing. So this is nice if you want to do this for something like, even like Christmas, or like any sort of celebration time where you need to do a whole bunch of the same sort of thing. And these are all essentially the same, but they are different because there's different characters, there's different sentiments, but they're essentially the same thing. So same design, which is nice. It's nice if you can sit and do this. And if you do have a lot of birthdays, or you send a lot of birthday cards, I shouldn't say if you have a lot of birthdays, we have a lot of birthdays. I'm really good at making the cards, I'm just really crap at like sending them out. Yeah, if you do have a lot and you do send them out, this is a good way to sort of get a whole bunch of them done at the same time, and it's good fun. So just getting this. I thought the happy birthday made it sound like a yappy birthday. So I thought it was cute. So I'm now again this sort of producing more than one thing at a time. I'm going to get all the back of all of these ready with my tape runner. Sometimes it comes up a bit. I think it's just because of the paper, but it's fine. Make it work. And then I'm going to stick all these pieces onto the base card. Make sure I've got it the way I want it, because, you know, knowing me, I'll put it upside down or something. So do you see how you've got a tiny little border? So for those of us who have A4 cardstock, and you're making your little cards, even if you're making it as like an American A2 size card, you could do something very similar. You just have to go 1/8 of an inch down in the sizing, or just know that you're going to have a tiny border rather than 1/4 of an inch, sort of 1/8 of an inch rather than 1/4. So it depends what you want to do though. So here I'm just putting that adhesive just on the back of where those images are, and that way you're not going to see the adhesive. Again, I shouldn't have used wet adhesive. I should have used dry adhesive, and you'll see in some other upcoming videos I make some adjustments to this. So yeah, and that's basically them. Really easy to do. Obviously I had all the little background things prepped already, and I just wanted to use them for something, so I thought birthdays would be a good one to use them for. I love how these turned out, and I think also just adding some vintage photo or like a brown to all the edges made such a difference. So my little cat, she probably would look like that at the present, so she's so funny. And then the little doggy. So I hope you like this, and I hope you give this a whirl. Just find some old school, well not old school, but find some old stamps that you've had for a long time and just have a play. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.